Ah! What the bloody hell were they thinking? Sometimes you just want to watch an old-fashioned slasher movie, and it doesn't get much more old-fashioned than a Halloween movie. I had no idea that this film was even in the works. After all, it was only a couple of years ago that we got that bloody awful Halloween the Booby Trap years, in which we find Laurie has spent 40 years alienating family members and living in her own booby-trapped house in the hopes that when Michael comes after her again, she'll finally get revenge. It was not a great movie. So I just forgot about it until a couple of days ago when I discovered that they had made a sequel. I almost spat my cornflakes across the room, or at least I would have if it wasn't just hyperbole. Before I get started, please consider subscribing as that would really help me out, and if you like this content, give it a like. Okay, on with the review. Why did they make this movie? It has no reason to exist. It serves no purpose. It gives us nothing and it damages a brand that has been going since 1978. 1978, that's a pretty long time ago, and it is a testament to the mystique and unique character of Michael Myers that people aren't entirely bored of these movies. After all, let's face it, they are basically the same movie repeated indefinitely forever, and you know what? That is good. It has a theme and people still enjoy watching Laurie running away from her brother as he tries to finish what he started with his sister Judith, although they have now retconned that part of the story back to the first movie where he is now fixated on Laurie simply because she is the one that got away and she's no longer his sister. At least that is what we're meant to believe. But you know what they did in this movie? Yep, they decided, what if Michael was actually more interested in murdering people in his hometown in general rather than anyone specifically? Because, and here be spoilers, so if you actually care about watching this dumpster fire of a movie, then maybe you should watch it and then come back and see if you agree with my opinions of this crapfest waste of time that manages to shit all over a great franchise. Again, don't think I've forgotten you, Rob Zombie. In the last movie, Laurie gets stabbed in the stomach by our favourite serial killer. So in this movie, she is rushed to the hospital, and that's it. Full stop. Nothing more to see here. She does nothing. She has no relevance to this movie. She's certainly not the star. She's just there. It is so damned annoying. And Michael never even goes to the hospital. He goes all over town and back to his house as usual, but he doesn't go to the hospital where he must know that his old nemesis is. We spent the whole last movie with him chasing her down yet again, but this time he just says to himself, Laurie who? It just seems so out of character. She can't be the centre of every Halloween movie, and there is no need to try and shoehorn her in just to give your movie a bit of star power in a franchise that is mostly composed of young girls and teenagers being killed horribly in the classic sex and death trope. So why not just leave her out of this movie, and we could have just watched what happened after he escaped from the burning building and made his way back to his old house again. That would have been better than the truly awful hospital scene, which is either a comment on mob mentality, a rip-off of The Lord of the Flies, or is an accurate representation of Twitter in the form of a baying mob of idiots who seem to have lost the ability of coherent thought, as they simply yell, "The evil dies tonight," over and over while they chase some poor escaped mental patient, which is this movie's version of someone who is engaging in wrongthink by having an opinion that differs from that prescribed by the woke media outlets. It was a sickening sight, and really brings to mind what can happen when mob mentality takes over from common sense, which is a constant problem in this media-saturated age, where people consume nonsense from agenda-driven reporters and then shout down those willing to use their grey matter. Of course, the most annoying thing about the hospital scene is that Michael never arrives. He never goes there to finish off Laurie, which is what I was expecting and hoping for, as I could imagine the panic created by having Michael Myers loose among a large number of unsuspecting people. This brings me to another thing that really annoyed me, and that's how long Michael spent on screen. Because the fear with Michael is in his menacing presence. Whether he is on screen or possibly nearby, he is better shown in the shadows, sneaking around in the background, scaring us with suspense and then short moments of violence as he claims another victim. Keeping him on screen for long periods of time takes away from his mystique. They did it in the previous movie too, and it makes him feel less like some kind of demon from hell and more like a deranged nutter, which technically he is, but at least he is a mysterious deranged nutter. The problem is that the more time we spend watching him do the things he does, the less impact it has when he does them. He ends up feeling kind of demeaned and more pathetically murderous rather than terrifyingly, menacingly murderous. There's a scene early in the movie where Michael kills an old couple. First he stabs the woman, and then while she is dying from a stab wound to her neck, he puts the man on a table and starts stabbing knives into his back, while the woman watches, and instead of being scary and menacing, it just feels kind of sad and pathetic and uninteresting. We don't need to see Michael actually doing these things. It's enough that we know he has done something horrendous without seeing the behind-the-scene details. And if that wasn't bad enough for a movie based on an enigmatic, sociopathic, shadowy, almost supernatural figure, they even show him being attacked and beaten up by a gang of Haddonfield's local residents who've had enough of Michael and his murderous ways, which I found kind of strange, because we are no longer on the original Halloween timeline where Michael has come back time and again, leaving a swathe of victims in his path. So according to this timeline, he has had the original movie and the previous movie, which is essentially joined to this movie. So after 40 years, the people would not be fearing Michael Myers the Boogeyman and thinking of him as an ever-present danger likely to return and murder them all at any moment. In fact, the whole "the evil dies tonight" theme makes no sense as a driving force in the movie because it is predicated on the idea that Michael has been a constant threat to the town, which he simply hasn't in this timeline. In fact, Laurie spent the previous movie preparing to face him again, which was just as silly. The storyline just feels incoherent without the previous movies to back it up and give it real purpose. Especially since Loomis isn't here to give us the supernatural angle that is the only way that Michael Myers is still alive. Which leads us back to the gang of residents that attack him, because one of them shoots him multiple times through the body, as well as him being beaten and stabbed numerous times. After which, he still gets up and carries on like normal, as though he didn't just have 4 bullets go through his lungs, which would be fine normally, but we're supposed to have discounted the movies that show him being something other than truly human. So, my final conclusion for this movie is that it is very average. It's nothing special, and if anything, damages the historical basis of the character, and by extension the franchise itself. This is just yet another failed attempt to reboot the series instead of simply building on the original canon, which was more dynamic and interesting, if a little tired. If you're a fan of slasher movies, this will still be a worthwhile watch. But this is going to be yet another standalone movie series within the Halloween franchise, and it feels about as relevant as Halloween 3. This has been Movies Suck, wishing that they would just either go back to the original canon, or simply make us something new and interesting. Signing out, leave a like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.